how do we manage that deal of like we need to get everything we can out of this deal versus like we're in November, we're short on unit count, we need to make this a deal. Welcome to Moving Metal, episode 2 or 3, depending on who you are, I guess. Big shout out to my co-host, Christian Eagle, Brandon Prokupek. Thank you guys for being here once again.
Hey, no, thank you, man. Thank you for having us.
Anytime.
In your fantastic facility.
Anytime.
Clap for the man.
Anytime that's Thursday, because any other day, sorry.
Don't work. Don't work.
Okay, so I know we have no specific topic today. I'd like to touch on a couple of things. First off, we shot our last episode prior to the end of November, so I'd like to be brutally honest about what we all experienced in November. And then
It sucked.
Yeah, it did.
It sucked.
And then go ahead. Yeah, just do it.
It's about how it felt like.
And it did.
The whole month felt that way. It was like Monday,
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Next Monday.
and then Christmas party.
Let's go. Who wants to drink?
So I know we want to talk.
Forget about this bad month.
So I know we do have some discussion points, but why don't we just start with November, how it ended, why, maybe why we think it ended that way, because I think that's especially from what I've heard, like nobody has a real clear answer on what it is. And so maybe I'll start. So long story short, November was shit, okay? November was terrible, really across the board, especially for, and I don't want to say especially for, but I would assume for most dealerships across the country. So we're probably 20 of our 30 dealerships had a down month in November for a multitude of reasons. None that any of us can actually pinpoint. And we did have probably 10 who had an up month.
Couple outliers.
Yeah, a couple outliers. And so I have some theories on maybe why some of this stuff was down and you know why November was what it was, but I'd love to hear it from you two who are actually in it every day, looking at the numbers, actually on the floors, working the deals. So why don't we start there, and then let's move into, okay, since we understand that we're in this different market, well, how do we make the money? How do we maintain margin? And when is it okay to take that skinny deal? And then how do you balance that? Mm-hmm. How do you communicate that as an operator to your sales managers? Like, hey, yes, we want to maintain our margins, but we need to do deals.
Right.
So why don't we start there?
You go, Christian.
Yeah.
Me go.
You go.
Okay.
Amigo.
Me go. All right, everybody. Well, here's where I'll start to answer your question. And I think this touches a little bit on something that Brandon wants to dig into a little deeper further in the conversation. But if you look at this as a sales manager or anybody storefront that's a shot caller, the urgency.
I was just trying to do a subtle move.
Ain't
no
no subtle. Ain't no subtle.
Ain't nothing subtle there,
Ain't nothing
buddy.
subtle about a subtle.
Can we turn my volume down just a tad?
Your volume.
Yeah, because you were way too loud.
Fuck you.
Your
Edit
volume
it
is
out.
not loud. Your headphones might be too loud, but
Maybe it is my headphones.
yeah, I think it is your headphones.
That would be good. Thank
All
you.
right, now
That's
that
better.
Pack has been
Muted.
satisfied,
Yeah.
I think here's the number one thing, and I've seen this across industries. The urgency of your deals based off of the dollar amount of your deals is generally better hinged on your inventory level. So if you have 50 units in stock and you've got a month that starts to become slow and you need to not have 50 units in stock, then it makes much more sense at any given time to say we're going to become more aggressive with our deals to help move that inventory. If you have 20 units in stock and you have 5 units on the horizon over the next X amount of days, it's very important to keep your finger on the pulse of that, because we all know that out of the three sections of buyers, you've got your low end, your middle end, and your top end. What happened in November is the middle section said we're not buying anything. So we were relegated to the low end and to the top end. The top end buyers are generally going to pay the money. So if you fire sell the good units that you have to sell to your top end buyers and sell down to where you don't have a replenishable inventory level, you can shoot yourself in the foot to hit a units goal, because you can hit that units goal by whoring out deals, right? And then all of a sudden, the next month rolls around whenever you've got your top end buyers that have got the itch saying, hey, is there a way I could get X unit? Well, you had X unit that you sold for $1,000 profit when your average PRU is 4,200, but because you got worried and you moved that unit too quickly, you said yes to that $1,000 deal, and now you've got a $4,200 deal looking at you in the face. Here's the hedge on that. You have to keep a really close grasp on what your inventory level is and what it's going to be, so that you can fairly say, okay, when is the fire sale button? When do I hit that button?
Mayday.
And I think that speaks to many different things, because it can be trim level, right? It can be trim level oriented. It can be used versus new oriented. So I think that, to answer your question, do we hold back for the good deal, or do we go ahead and let this mediocre deal or this really bad deal fly? I think a lot of that has to play with what that inventory level looks like.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would totally agree with that, as long as like it's on that specific unit. Like for you guys, if it's a Defender Limited, yes, like don't just give it away. But anything else, if you look at the inventory out there, there is plenty of every other model unit there is out there. Right? So, I mean, to your point, as long as it's not the ones that you're struggling to get, or the ones that
Correct.
other dealers don't have, then that's a very good logic. But if you're holding out on the deals for the units that you can obviously order more from the manufacturer, or you can go dealer transfer that piece of inventory, I would say take the deal no matter what.
Yeah, correct.
Like, I don't care if it's a $1,000 deal, $2,000 deal, like the dealership needs revenue.
Correct. So there is a slight difference of thought here that, I mean, and I think
we're saying the same
No,
thing.
we're saying exactly the same thing.
Are you saying the exact same thing? Well,
Yeah.
Here's the honest
Because
question.
to put that in perspective and tie that to what I said, XT models in the winter, I don't care if you're in the top tier buyer or if you're the bottom tier buyer, you're not buying that unit. So if a customer shows up on that unit and says, hey, I'm here for an XT and it's in the middle of winter, well, I'm taking that deal.
Yeah.
Because that unit's probably not going to comfortably sell until spring, when people don't mind to have an XT with no doors and no windshield and whatever. So that's why I say it's not just the inventory level, it's the type of inventory that you have, and keeping a very close rein on what that deal structure needs to look like overall.
Okay. So, I mean, how many? I guess the question I have is, like, how many of those deals do we actually get, and then how many of them do we actually do? Right. So, like, if we look back at what our November was in terms of total number of units, and I've seen the deal averages, and our deal averages are way above industry average. Well, how many of those deals are we realistically taking? You know, is it do you do 3 of those a month, or 3 of those a month where we could be doing 10 of those a month? Or does a dealer turn all of those away when they could have had 5 extra units? Like, what's the realistic outcome? I know we have this school of thought, but how well are we implementing that school of thought? You're going to know the answer to this. Across all 3 stores.
What's the question again?
How well are we implementing that school of thought of taking a skinny deal?
Yeah.
Because everybody at this table has seen our averages, and they're up, which is
Right,
something, which
yeah.
is something to be proud of.
Yeah,
by the
sure,
way.
yeah.
But like, are we? And I'm sure if we're doing it, then everybody else is probably,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, like, is it an easier thing to say and a harder thing to implement, especially in a slow month?
Could be.
Okay. So if you had a piece of advice on how to manage this outside of maybe your perspective and put it into your, because I think the real people, I know you touch every deal, but the real ones on the front line, your customers are your salespeople. How do you implement that message to them of like, hey, even if it is a brand new HD 11, how do we manage that deal of like, we need to get everything we can out of this deal, versus like we're in November, we're short on unit count, we need to make this a deal?
So it's a great question. I love how you said that. So if I view my salespeople as my customer, and they're my customer, what do we expect out of our salespeople with their customers? Because that's what I'm going to expect out of myself. And I mean this to tie this all together. If I expect my salesperson to not let a deal walk before they talk to me first, then I should expect me to not let a deal walk before I get another set of eyes on that deal. And I feel like that the only litmus test that you can really say whenever you've got an above average PRU is on the deals that I think maybe aren't, or maybe I, as a sales manager, said no to, did I run it by the GM and say, hey, I don't think that I got a deal here, but what are your thoughts on this deal? Right? So I'm treating myself in that situation as his customer.
Right.
Got it.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the customer just goes upstream, 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 because I'm treating the salesperson as my customer and I'm treating him as my sales manager. Right?
Yep.
Because I feel very qualified to make that decision. But I'm going to tell you what, you get a whole lot more validation whenever you're fighting with yourself as a sales manager, which sometimes is a very isolated position, right? And I feel a whole lot better and sleep a lot better whenever the GM says, yeah, actually, I found a way to put it together because I found a way to justify it.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, if your perspective justifies it, I support you. Let's go make a deal. Let's make everybody happy.
And
if he seconds what my thought is, okay, well, I'm just validated and saying, okay, we did everything we could. It's not a deal. The owner comes in and says, hey, guys, why didn't we make this deal? I can say, well, this is what I saw, and then this is what the GM saw. So if you see something different, now we're your customer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about it and let's figure it out. But you'll find, I think, that it's very rare. It's very rare that I get challenged with a deal currently that I say, oh yeah, should have definitely took that angle, or should have definitely thought about this before I let that guy walk.
Yeah.
Because of that, not because of how good I am as a sales manager. It's just because I realize my customer, and when my customer is my salesperson, then I need to get somebody else involved before I say, hey, yay or nay.
Yeah.
And here's a credit to you, and I'll let you go here. It's you do a great job, because the same way that if I'm a salesperson to a customer that's actually buying the product, I have to trust you, right? You've done a great job of these guys being able to come to you and they'll trust your decision.
Sure.
Most of the time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So just wanted to tip my cap to you, but I would love your perspective.
So I guess my question would be, let's exclude that upper echelon buyer and the units that you can't get enough of, because we've decided that there's three groups of customers. We got the low end buyers, the mid range buyers, which those mid range buyers are the ones that account for the majority of our sales, and then we have the upper end buyers that are going to buy no matter what, right? Your limited guys, your North Star guys, those guys are going to buy no matter what, and you're going to get your $5, $6, $8, $10,000 deals off those guys. Let's eliminate that, and let's talk about, if the bulk of our customers are this mid-range buyer and there's a finite amount of those buyers, how do we make sure that we're doing those deals, right? Because there's two trains of thought that I see out there. There's the one train of thought where you can be the whore dealer and give it all away, or you can try to hold margin and lose that deal.
Yep.
And the reality is, the way that I see it is, if it's on paper as a deal for somebody else and they're going to take that deal, we should take that deal too. So as a sales manager, how do you navigate that, right? Because the whole conversation is based around, how do we hold margin in an environment right now where there's lots of inventory for certain models, which is your mid-range buyer that we're talking about. There's compressed margins. So you got high inventory, compressed margins, low demand. Okay, so how do you make that judgment call from where you hold gross on that deal, or whether you take the freaking skinny $500 into holdback deal and turn that unit? Because there's still money to be made on that unit, and in 3 months from now, we're going to be paying interest on that unit as a dealer. From a GM owner perspective, that's what I'm looking at. So let's exclude the top end buyer, the limiteds, the North Stars, the 1500s, the stuff like that, and let's talk about the bulk of who our buyer is. So how do you use your discernment to say we're going to take this skinny deal versus we're going to hold out and make margin on this guy?
Well, I think it's what you said, having a perspective, having a true like 30,000 foot on your inventory level. Like if I know that it's because here's the deal. I mean, even if we've got a dealer in Illinois who sold mainly HD10s last month because they were out of 11s, and he held margin on every single one of those deals. But if you're sitting on two 11s and somebody comes in on a 10, are you more inclined to take a skinny deal on the 10 because you think that it's the
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I guess the question is like that's where the tricky part comes in.
Yeah, if you know that HD11 or that limited is your top echelon buyer and you have a guy there that's on an HD10, yes, the money's in the flip, but to your point, if you flip that guy and try to make more money, you're just using up that piece of inventory.
Yes.
Why not keep him on that unit?
So I think that we're running into something that will be very relatable to a lot of the folks out there listening to this right now, because I think this is an age-old conversation. I think the ultimate answer here is you better have damn good sales managers. And the reason I say that is there are so many variables in this question. What if you have a salesperson that's 1 unit away from a unit bonus? What if you have a salesperson that's in a slump and needs a morale boost? What if you have a finance manager that is in the wrong headspace? What if you have a GM that's in a wrong headspace? There's so many reasons.
The answer to what you're asking is take the fucking deal.
Yeah.
Well,
it answers all those questions.
The
right?
answer
Let
is
your guy hit the sales bonus. Let your salesperson get out of a slump. Let your F&I guy get out of a slump. Like, give them an opportunity.
The overall what I'm saying is the reason it's so important to have the right person in place when it comes to the shot caller of where that deal is.
Yeah.
Is I've seen it go both directions. I've seen dealerships that say, I don't know how people have 1,000 PRU. Well, I'll tell you why. Because there's better closers than you, right? And then I've seen dealerships that say, I don't know why we're behind so far on units, but we've got this crazy average. Well,
I think I've been both those guys.
Yeah,
I am both those guys right now.
I've been a part of both. I've been a part of both of those teams.
Yeah,
you know, I guess, and that's my point. The ultimate answer is to get the right person in place. That's the ultimate answer. If you've got the right person in place that knows how to culture the right team.
What if that person that's watching this podcast right now wants to be that right person, but they're not?
How do you get there?
The quickest way is by taking a lot of deals.
Right.
Because if you're really good at taking a deal and then recapping what you did on that deal and figuring out what you can do better and what you did poorly, the more of those deals you take, the more that gross will grow. Also, the more your deal count will grow.
Yeah.
Because if you're really good at first, let's say you just became a sales manager. Okay, I just came from the sales floor. I've worked hard. I did good numbers. Now I'm a sales manager. What do I do? Number one, how many deals can you say yes to?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of challenges in saying yes, especially when there's challenge credit, whenever there's people that have quotes from 3 other dealerships, whenever there's customers that flipped in their trades. Once you figure out all of the basic roots of what makes a sales manager, which is to figure out the answer to those, at that point and at that point only can you say, now I can start figuring out how to make those deals better and figure out which of those are deals and not deals. It's very easy, guys, to say this person can't get approved on anything. It's not a deal. We're not talking about that. Okay, that's an exclusion on the customer side, right? We're not talking about the deals that you can't make because the customer has an issue, too much negative equity, not enough credit, not enough down payment, not enough money in the bank. We can't control any of those things. So when you start to focus on the things that you can control, which are the deals that are potential, the potential holds the profit. And the laydowns, right? If you're basing your PRU off of customers that come in and say, I love you, I'll pay sticker, what's this going to cost me? Yeah, that's what I'll write the check for. You have an inflated sense of security that will not last when something like November happens and your main customer disappears.
Which we had happen. And
so that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Saying yes to every deal is absolutely where it starts. And I'm not saying say yes to a deal that says we're losing $5,000 on paper and
Sure.
let's
Yeah,
high five
yeah,
about
yeah.
it. Okay.
No.
Let's not go off of
Yeah.
deep ends here.
Right.
I'm saying you have a parameter. That's why you're a leader, right? You have a parameter. You understand why you have that parameter. So once you meet that parameter, then and only then can you start turning the pitch knobs to say, okay, how do I go from where I'm at and making my next deal a little bit better? You say this all the time. If I'm not a better person tomorrow than what I am today, then I screwed something up.
Correct.
Because I should have found a way today to be a little bit better, even if it's 1%. If you're 1% better every day, you're 365% better at the end of the year.
100%.
One of the things that you said to me today that was really impactful is that for a lot of dealers, there's no low-hanging fruit. There is none. So, like, I know a dealer that's right down the road from us that has a lot of low-hanging fruit because of who they are and how long they've been there and their reputation, and they've earned that. But in a case where, like, where you're in a situation where there is everything, we've got two that are everything that we get is way up high in the trees. We've got to work for every single deal. There is no low-hanging fruit.
Right.
I guess I got two questions here. One, everything that you have to, because here's the problem that I would have is, like, if I know that I have to work my ass off for every deal, I'm gonna have a problem with taking the skinny deal, especially as a salesperson working for commission.
But all those years, that dealer that you're talking about that has a lot of low hanging fruit,
it's because they took it.
they took the deal. That's why they have the customer.
Okay, so how do you get over the hump of, it's almost an ego question.
I went through it.
It's an ego question, right?
You
It's
take
like,
the deal. You take that $800 whole deal on the $15,000 unit.
Okay.
You take it.
Is there a perspective that you can get on, or that you can give on the ego side of this, which is a big part of, say, like, let's put ourselves at the base level.
Okay,
from a
pull your wallet
salesperson.
out.
Wow, chicka, wow, wow. About to see how fat that thing
Okay.
is.
Are you gonna have your ego get in the way of how much money is in this wallet? Or are you gonna put your ego aside and say, if I want to grow my wallet, I got to set my ego over here and do what's necessary now so that I have a better future tomorrow?
That's a great metaphor, analogy, whatever the hell it's called. That's great. I guess the question is like, is there something that you can instill in him and him can instill in him and the four people that work under him? Because I know that because I've been that person that's like, dog, I don't want to get paid.
Okay, are you going to take a
$100,000.
deal today or not?
Now that I see it from this perspective, yeah,
Right,
I want
right.
the deal,
Well, exactly. That's what we're trying to give
what we're
here.
trying to do. Yeah. Okay. Great.
I mean, to the point about what you were talking about with the burnt out sales guy, the burnt out F&I guy, like, I don't care if you have the shittiest 4 deals that day, being the fact that you put 4 deals on the board.
I'm happy.
You're happy. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Am I happy when I'm looking at the P&L and I see that we made $3,000 on 4 deals? No. But I'm happy that we got the revenue.
Yeah.
I'm happy that we got the opportunity to sell parts. We got the opportunity to sell F&I. And we got the opportunity to hit the goal or whatever that Polaris or BRP sets out there for us.
Okay.
Right? Because revenue is going to solve our problem right now.
Yeah.
Right? You stop revenue for 5 days straight, bro, your
Everybody's
cash
hurt.
flow is going to hurt.
And that's something that I've realized. The more
And your morale's going to hurt.
Yeah, the more I understand about, like, how cash flow works in this industry, one, you can bleep this out if you want to. It's okay.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's not. And you don't bleep it out because it's the truth. And people that are watching us are dealing with it.
Yeah.
Right now.
And then
But you know what solves that? If I'm an owner or a GM, this is for your owners and GMs, and I'm looking at, here's how much I have to pay to operate my dealership per month. I can outsell my way to that, even if I take a bunch of skinny deals.
Okay, here's a great question, and you'll like this, is if you are said dealership down the road, and you've spent 5 years taking the skinny deals, and now everything is gravy, but you're being propped up by the low-hanging fruit. How do you go from it's really a mentality switch from like we're this, we have to go back to this to live,
right,
to survive. Because what happens is if you stay like this in a month like November, yeah, it might work for 1 month, but what if December's the same way?
What if January is the same way? What if February is the same way?
Correct. Now
that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. So
November, December, January. I got 4 months. I'm like,
we're going through a stretch for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So like, how do you make sure that those guys understand that like, hey, I know we've done this for the past however many years to get to where we are, but just because we were okay in November and everybody else was shit doesn't mean that this is not. We're not getting ready to get smacked in the face December, January, February until it turns.
Yeah.
So like, if you had a perspective on, I mean, I guess you have to. How do you ensure that does not, like, they're not constantly leaning on this crutch of we've been doing this for 5 years, we've taken the skinny deals, it will just come to us.
Well, I think it's every deal for every dollar. And it's going back to the basis of what the stuff that we talk about in our leadership meetings, your follow-up, your marketing, your Facebook marketplace game. Like, what are you doing every single day? It's like, I've been thinking a lot lately about, okay, what are my sales guys actually doing? Because my theory is, if the inbound slows down, the old Jordan Belfort method, if the inbound slows down, I need the outbound. Right? What did Matthew McConaughey say in that movie? We don't open at 9 o'clock. Our phones start dialing at 9 o'clock or whatever the hell it is, right? Right? Or how a lot to your point about the ego, right? A lot of people go, well, I'm not going to dial for dollars. Well, you want to make that car payment next month? You want to buy that new house next year? You better be dialing that damn phone, right? A lot of it does come down to ego, and we're doing all we can do, and we're doing. I'm like, okay, how many phone calls did you make? How many text messages did you send? How many marketplace posts did you make? You're there for 8 hours. What are you doing during those 8 hours?
Correct. One of the things I love about November, and it's correlated to your store, we got exposed. You know what the exposure was? There is no amount of leads that you can push into a dealership that will fix this problem.
Yeah.
There's no amount. There's no amount.
I just read something today, and I'm not going to say this verbatim, but I read something, and it said along the lines of, it's not the times that you're doing your best that you find yourself, it's the times that you've done your worst and your low points where you find your weak spots. So you can find yourself to be better for next month or next year, right? So we got to take this as an opportunity to learn, okay, this is where we got screwed. This is the bad thing that we dealt with. What am I going to do to dig myself out of this hole?
Great perspective, and I'm honestly interested. I know the answer, but I think the audience deserves to know the answer. So full transparency here. Last month, and I don't know if we may have talked about this already, but I'm going to tell you again. Last month, we made a concerted effort to make our product seem attainable to essentially everyone. So we ran a bunch of ads around product or units as low as everybody can afford this. And we drove a record high number of leads into said dealership. We drove a record high number of finance applications into said dealerships. And I mean, maybe you guys are okay with me saying this.
It didn't convert.
It was the worst month we've had since we've been in operation.
Right.
Okay.
But because we decided who we thought the customer was going to be, we talked about this last time, the bank decided who the customer was not going to be.
Correct. But also, what we learned is that the number on your lead count is not as important as can you handle the leads that you're getting correctly, and can we switch from the ego of I'm going to call this person 2 times, and if they don't answer, well, fuck them, to I've got to be a dog. And I got to figure out how to make sure that every single person that comes in contact with my dealership gets touched by my guys 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 12,
10, 12 times.
Yeah, 12 to 15 is the goal.
You know what I'm thinking about as we're talking about this?
Talk to me.
So you remember when we posed the question a couple episodes ago, where the question was, is is marketing more important, or is lead generation more important, or cultivating your sales team more important? And the answer was, is your sales team worth the marketing?
Yeah.
And there is so much power in that. And I say this, and I challenge the power sports industry for this reason. When I came into it, we didn't have a CRM, right? It makes me question how many power sports dealers out there have not yet grasped the importance of a CRM.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's a bunch of them.
Okay. So that's a realization. And this is like real turning moment kind of stuff. If as an owner you come in and say, we're having a rough month, right? The first question isn't, we're having a rough month. You've already seen that. You already know what the numbers is. The question as an owner is, why are we having a rough month?
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't have great process and tools in place where you can start to pinpoint the bad month, you're as ignorant on the bad month as you are the good month, because you don't know why you had a good month either.
True.
Well,
That's the reason why the car business figured this out a long time ago, is they realized that people will do what they're allowed to do, period. This is in any industry. If there's not a good way to set these metrics and start to manage these, the question of, are we giving deals away, or are we trying to hold too much gross and turning down deals? All of these things become complete gray areas that you cannot pinpoint. You have no
You're
way.
not using metrics.
Because you don't know how to track it.
Yeah, there's no tracking.
Either way, so as a store that has really very recently brought in very new processes, one of which being a CRM, and then, of course, have had to learn over the last couple months, how do we even utilize this CRM to its potential, right? I can say as a boots-on-the-ground member, that is the difference between people that are able to course-correct quickly in a challenging market and people that cannot course-correct quickly enough and then are looking, saying, man, I wish I would have done this, because I just heard for the last 2 months, Jim Bob's dealership has been doing great because they were focused on this. How did they figure that out? Well, because they probably had visibility that you didn't have.
Yep. Correct.
I want to know how you know about Jim Bob.
He's a friend of mine.
So
He's a good fella.
I really appreciate this, because what I'm working on right now with our CRM, it's like maybe the amount of leads is not necessarily the amount of leads is not really the issue. The first issue is that we didn't have the team to handle that amount of leads, and then the second issue is that I have not built a good enough system within our CRM for them to have the support that they need to handle that many leads. Like, I haven't told you this, but like, I'm considering what I'm building now, or what we've just dug into with our CRM. Like, it's going to take me 60 months, or not 60 months.
5 years, guys. It's going to take him 5 years.
12 years from now,
We
Brendan
might
Pack
have a
created
good
system.
CRM set up.
It's going to take me 60 days, and it's going to take me multiple meetings with him and Corey and Kyle to like figure out how it. But
Yeah.
like it's so intricate, and the more I dig into it, it's like I'm considering it adding it to our product.
Yeah.
Is like, hey, if you have this in here, once we've built it out, like we'll offer it as because how many people are in the situation that we're in, where
We're not alone.
We paid
Guys, any of this bullshit we talk about, we're not alone.
the only ones.
We're not the only
That's
ones.
the reason why we're on microphones and have headphones and have cameras
Here's
up right
the point:
now.
is we're not the only one who paid for a relatively expensive CRM, thinking it would fix the problems, and it's not.
The tool,
Yeah.
to be clear, the tool never fixes the problem.
Facts.
Right.
The tool never fixes the problem. And even with the age that we're in, where AI is a tool and AI will do a lot for you, AI in itself is yet not at the point where it will fix your problem.
Correct.
You have to know how to weaponize that tool and give it what it needs so that you can then use the fruit of its effort to do what you need to do. So the tool, we are not yet at a point in society where there is a tool that will go fix your problem. You still have to weaponize that tool.
Okay. So this brings me to a point. You had talked about pivoting, right? This isn't my first bad month in the industry.
Correct.
Trust me.
Nor
This is
I.
not my first bad month. Not yours, but the number one thing that sets us apart is that we pivot and we pivot fast. Right? And a lot of people don't realize that because they're not tracking their numbers, their results. They just look at their P&L or whatever piece of paper that you guys look at for their results, and you go, well, it was a bad month. And then you don't do shit about it.
Correct.
You don't change.
This is dealership related, but this is also very life related.
Yeah.
So-
yeah, right.
The
Yeah.
most impactful thing that you've done for me in the past 2 weeks is walk into one of our dealerships that I was in that day on the first of the month and say, what did you say? I'm hitting the Mayday button.
Something's got to change
Something's
right
gotta
now.
change
I'm not dealing with this
today.
again.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we haven't spent enough time in the dealerships together this month for you to hear me on these calls, but I've called every single one of our dealers this month and said, you need to be comfortable calling me and saying, Mayday,
Yeah.
Mayday,
Yeah.
turn it upside down.
Yeah.
Because what I don't want to, and look, here, if you're not comfortable calling your marketing agency or whoever's doing your marketing right now after 1 month of bad results, saying Mayday, Mayday, turn something around, then guess what? It's going to sit like that for 4 months, and then you're going to need a new marketing agency. And so what I'm trying to do as the owner of the agency is make my people comfortable. Like, I don't give a shit if it's a mediocre month. Call me and tell me to flip it.
Yeah.
Turn it upside down,
Yeah.
because I want you to do it now, not 4 months from now when it's gotten
Terrible.
right? Like, here's the like the reality is this is going to happen to everybody once a year, twice a year.
At least.
We do this every year.
Yeah.
And so, like, you have never done it in that perspective to me, which made me understand, like, oh no, they need to call me and literally just be able to say, hey, Mayday, turn it.
Something's got to
Something's
change.
got to change. And
What we're doing right now does not work. And that
Correct.
could be your marketing, your sales department, your service, any department.
any department.
Any department. Your inability to make a change is your inability to make a fucking dollar.
And to your point of like the difference between holding margin and giving, it's not that like I always tell people, like, hey, if you've had a bad month, it's not that marketing is 100% of your problem, because it's not.
No.
It's not. Because we still get impressions, we still get leads, but if we're going to be part of the problem, we need to be part of the solution as well. So like the reality is it's probably 25% marketing on any given store and any given front and in any given location. So because what we did in November worked for our goal, but it was wrong in terms of the time.
It was imbalanced.
Right.
Correct.
Is what it was.
Correct.
And that's actually what I was hoping you were going to say, because I think in a dealership, when we recap and we kind of circle back to the initial conversation of whole gross versus let deals rip, are you trying to sell units or are you trying to build a brand?
Oof.
Because,
I don't think you can do one without the other.
Cannot.
well, here's my point. Nike didn't start out as the most expensive sports brand in the industry.
Nike had a bunch of money though.
But they still didn't start that way.
Right.
They still didn't start that way.
Nike didn't worry about making payroll next week.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've never been a part of Nike. I don't know how
We don't
dark.
know,
I don't
yeah.
know what their dark times have been.
Right,
If you're
right.
from
Here's-
Nike and
maybe.
you're watching this, please let us know.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll tell you.
We're broke.
I will not believe that the uber successful brands that sell things based off of their brand, right? Pants manufacturers, right? A pair of pants is a pair of pants.
Okay.
Well, that pair of pants has a brand stamped on it.
I'm with you, but how many shoe companies are there versus how many local dealerships are we competing against?
If you let's look at a different brand, and I think this will show my point better. How many Ferraris get sold a year versus Nissans?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Okay.
200 versus
Which company's more
20,000?
profitable? Nissan.
Probably Nissan.
Like leaps and bounds.
Yeah,
Right? If
yeah.
you guys have ever watched the movie Ford versus Ferrari, there's a very good line that Lee Iacocca said that says, "We want to be Ferrari," in his presentation. And the head of marketing for Ford Motor Company says, "We spend more money on toilet paper every year than Ferrari spends on its entire manufacturing program. And I'm saying this to put my point here in perspective. As a dealership, you are building a brand. Your dealership is a brand.
Sure.
To make your brand dinner table conversation, you have to move the unit, because if you don't move the unit, you are the wrong dinner table conversation. If you don't make the sale, and let's say they shop 2 dealerships, which right now it's like 2.1, I think is maybe it's 1.2 dealerships that get
1.2.
visited.
Yeah, get visited.
Visited.
Not that get shopped.
Not shopped, but
physically
actually
go there.
physically get visited. So let's
Yeah.
say a customer visits 2 dealerships, because it's hard to visit 0.2 of one, but let's say they visit 2 dealerships. One dealership makes the deal happen and the other one doesn't. The very thing that they say is, I went to the dealership that didn't make the deal, and they just didn't want to do business with me. So I
walked in the showroom and nobody even talked to me.
Nobody even said anything to me, and I had my checkbook in my pocket on my overalls, right? So the reality is, the dealership that scored that deal added to their brand.
Right.
So if you don't make the deal, you are taking away from your brand. If you find a way to be creative and make the deal, some of the skinniest deals that I've ever made in my career were to some of the most thankful customers, because I was able to dig in and find a way and turn some buttons that other people just weren't able or weren't willing to turn. And so the difference is the willingness. And I think as an owner, when you're looking at a P&L and you're saying, man, my guys used to have this average and now the average is dropping and it's dropping, I think it's a very reflex thing that's easy to say is, damn, are you guys not, what happened? Right? Because last month we made X per copy on these units, and this month we're only at this, right? It's a very easy conversation to have.
Sure.
That's where trust, in the book we're reading, right, where it says trust makes money. To have trust in somebody, you have to have seen their product so many times that you trust them. Once you have trust in that product, I do not believe that a great salesperson just turns in overnight to a shitty salesperson.
Correct.
I don't believe that happens. Over time it can happen, but overnight it generally doesn't happen.
Right.
Unless something happens that forces them into it. So I think as an owner and as a GM and as any level of upper management, it's equally as important to keep your finger on the pulse of the direction of those shot callers and saying, where's their headspace? What's happening in their lives? Is there a reason that they feel like that they can't hold gross, or is there a reason why they feel like they can't say yes to a deal?
Right.
Because whether they say yes depicts the brand of my dealership.
Yep.
So are they helping the brand or are they hurting the brand?
I love what you said about understanding the importance of a dealership growing their brand. And I think a lot of dealerships rely on the OEMs and for their stuff to carry their brand. And newsflash, I don't care if you carry the top 2 brands in the industry, Polaris and Can-Am, it's not carrying your brand, okay? You still have to do you still have to provide the perspective from inside of your dealership on your brand. And then 2 is, okay, well, we're telling dealers that it's important for them to implement and carry and set their brand. Well, how do you do that? I mean, I know there's the marketing perspective, but like, how do you do that within the dealerships while still tying it back to our original conversation, retaining margin, maximizing every deal that walks through the door, occasionally taking the skinny deal? Because one of the things that I love that you said is like, you going out of your way, and I know this from experience as a salesperson, I've gone out of my way to make essentially a non-deal a deal for a person in, say, February, and they bought a unit in November and bought a unit in the next February, and yada yada. So that one unit turned into 5 because
Right.
I made the deal happen. And
They
so,
bought the brand.
Yeah.
So exactly. So how does a dealership implement their brand? If we're like, we can talk about marketing in 5 minutes or so, but I want to talk about from like an operations perspective, fixed ops, your training and your salespeople. How does a dealership implement their brand?
You know, a huge group of dealers that don't have any support from the manufacturers. You know who those group are?
Who?
They're the number 1 auto dealers in the nation. They're independent, pre-owned auto dealers.
True.
Wow.
They have no representation from anybody,
Yep.
and they have a horrible name
Tell me.
as a group, right?
True.
I was a part of this.
Yeah.
This is why I'm talking about this specifically, because it is so important. This is why I think that I look at this in the way that I do when I talk about what is your brand. If you're a Can-Am dealer and some Canadian shit hits the fan, and for whatever reason, you're no longer a Can-Am dealer, you're going to have an option. You still have a dealer's license. You still have a facility. You still have a lease, right? You still have all these things that say, I can be a valid dealer. If you have a reputation and a brand built, you could bring Polaris in. You could bring Honda in. You could bring Kawasaki. You could bring You could bring any other brand in that from a manufacturer, and people will still buy from your brand. I learned this as an independent car dealer because people didn't buy cars from me because I had the Nissan. They bought cars from me because of how I branded myself as a dealer and who I was as a dealer. That was the only thing that I had to lean on. And I'll tell you this, my branding was good quickly. You guys were a part of this, right? So that proved to me something that I will never forget, and that's once you buy from a brand, industry has proven this for years, you will continue to buy that brand. There's a reason why when I buy tennis shoes, I will only buy Puma tennis shoes. Are there a lot of other tennis shoes? Yes. Will I buy those Puma tennis shoes from wherever I can get them from? Yes. But I'm only getting that Puma brand. If I had to go to a Puma store to get them, guess what I'd do?
Go to the Puma store.
I'd go to the Puma store to get them because that's the brand that I love. So I think as a legacy dealer, the dealers that, and we've had this the conversation, and Brandon's mentioned this a lot. There are customers that will only ever go to dealers that are around us because of the brand that they've built.
Yeah.
Yep.
They could come to PowerMax and get a better deal, right?
Sure.
They could go to our competitors and get a better deal, right? But they will go to that brand and buy that unit because they are brand loyal. Right. My wife's company, she's in the cleaning industry, right? She doesn't do, none of her marketing is deal based. None of it. She doesn't tell any of her customers, I'm the best deal that you'll find. But you know what? She's been in business for 14 years, and she has almost 100% client retention for 14 years.
Wow.
Because they buy her brand. They buy the product that her brand produces, and there is so much power in that I think that it's easy to forget because we get focused on, is it a fat deal or a skinny deal? And we forget, are we building the brand or are we hurting the brand?
I love this, and you and I can speak to this very well. There's a reason that this company right here has not 100%, but is close, probably 90% retention rate. And I was, I don't know who I was talking to this about, but it was the fact that, like, no, you can call us and hit the Mayday button, or I probably call you more than you actually want me to as somebody that's just a marketer. But it's. What did you say today about communication? Do you remember?
I think it was something good. What did I say?
I'm going to steal it.
If you said it, it was probably something good.
Oh,
Or it was bullshit.
now my head is exploding now.
I said it was word.
I have a chair. I have a chair.
I'm taking credit for this. Communication is the ultimate form of respect.
Yes, I did say that.
Sure.
The ultimate, and I've never thought about communication that way. I thought it was just something that you did, but the reality is that the reason dealers trust us so much is why? It's because we'll call them and we'll talk to them, not only when it's good, but when it's bad and when you need to hit the Mayday button.
I don't think that our customers trust our brand as much as they trust you as a person.
Agreed.
And that's what I want to go back to the dealership level of this conversation. You talk about the brand of the dealership or whoever your company is that you work for, even if it's your wife's cleaning company. They may trust the brand, but they deal with who?
They deal with me. They
a
deal
person.
with Stacy. Yes, correct.
They deal with a person. And I think talking to the salespeople and the sales managers of the world, those people that we're talking about that buy from you, they buy your brand as a person. Because I have moved dealerships before from this brand to this brand, but I still have those same people no matter where I'm at that only call me.
what happened it was
It's your
actually
own brand.
It was in your store.
Yeah.
I had a customer call. I haven't worked as a salesperson in a dealership in 4 years. I had a customer from 4 years ago call me about a unit in your store. And so I think it speaks it's not that he was not even appealing to the store brand.
Right.
It was because he bought the unit from me 4 years ago and he was ready for another one. And so who did he call? Not
You.
the store.
So, as an individual salesperson that's watching this, the brand that you have to build is yourself. From an operator's perspective, the culture that you have to build is not based on your dealership name, your Power Max, or your whatever. You have to instill to your people that are on the front line that they're the ones building the brand under their name.
Let's talk about how they can do that, though. So, like, how, because you did a really good job of this and you still do, like, how do you, as an operator or even as a sales manager, empower.
Or a salesperson. I've been a salesperson.
How do you empower your salespeople to go out and build their brand? Now,
Be the best.
Yes, be the best.
Call the most. Show up.
There we go. I'm not just talking
Bend over
about,
backwards. Text that dude at 9 o'clock at night when he texts you and he's ready to talk about this machine because he's been at work all day.
Interesting perspective. One of the dealers, so I told you that about 20 of the 30 have down months. One of the dealers that had an up month, you know what I learned? They do this. They do this every month, but it's one of the things that they do is that they respond to leads on weekends in closed hours. In closed hours.
Well, you got to think everybody that's buying the stuff that we sell, they work.
Correct.
Okay, and if they work from 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever the time they work is, when are they thinking the most about buying the stuff that you sell?
When they're off work.
When they're off work. When do you think about buying that next car or buying that next house or whatever you're looking for?
Not when I'm working.
Not when you're at work.
Yeah.
And if you were to be buying a house or buying a car or buying a toy or buying a golf simulator, and you text somebody at 9 o'clock at night when you're thinking about it and that person responds,
You gonna get me.
who's going to make the sale?
Yeah, you gonna get me if I'm thinking about something that night at 10 p.m. and I want to buy it and I get a response. Oh, I'm sold.
It's done.
It's done.
It's done because they care.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the key.
The even more so on this point is that, like, not only does he give his salespeople the power to respond, if they're working or if they're with their families, he'll go the operator, the guy who takes distribution checks, will respond to the leads on the weekend.
I do it.
That's a brand right there. That's not an individual. That's a brand. If you come to my store at any time, you're going to be taken care of.
You know what the reality is?
Talk to me.
Successful people are always willing to do the things that unsuccessful people are not willing to do.
Exactly.
Preach it.
Exactly.
And I will say this to the salespeople out there.
Don't burn my shit.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
I got 2 rules.
Whoops. I probably broken both of them. Whoops a daisy.
Don't fart in my office and don't.
It was
burn
good
my
having
mat.
fun with you guys. I just been kicked off of the Moving Metal Show.
Hey.
No, here's the question. The question to salespeople is, if you have any aspiration, do you realize that you are your own brand? My question to leadership is, are you encouraging your salespeople to make their own brand?
Right.
And then my encouragement to ownership is that, are you encouraging your leaders to make their own brand? Because I promise you, with the team that I'm with currently, it is humbling to me in the very short amount of time that I've been with them, how often they come to me and they say, "Hey, if I know somebody can do it, it's you."
That's right.
That's right.
That is my brand.
I tell you what.
Right. So my challenge is to everybody, as we've had such a similar topic for a while, is don't expect people to be things that they're not encouraged to be. And if you encourage your salespeople off of micromanagement and how many calls have you made, how many text messages have you made, how many emails have you sent?
Hey, now, are you beating up on me?
No,
Are you beating up on me, man?
No. Hear me out. And they don't understand why it's important for them to be doing those things and building their brand.
100%.
Here's the first thing that you're going to see. your retention is going to drop quickly.
Yep.
Because people do not do things happily that they don't see value in.
Yep.
So if they're making phone calls and they're poorly trained on making phone calls, guess what their phone call results are going to be? Very low.
Poor.
Very poor. And they're going to quickly see that there's not very much value in outside of I've got to do this because I have to. Right? And we know what's the goal that they make the phone calls so that they set appointments and appointments turn into sales. Right? Well, if they're doing a very poor job of making appointments in their phone calls, how important is it that we spend time with them to up the success level of their phone calls? You want to talk about a leader?
So
that's the difference in a leader and a manager.
What about the guys out there that are watching this that are salespeople that maybe they don't have good leaders? They don't show them the why of why they're doing what they're doing. Like they're just straight hustlers that want to make something out of their life.
Well,
what about those guys?
I love,
because you can't just say, well, if you don't have a good leader and you don't have somebody that's constantly pulling you up and telling you why you should do something, you're just a freaking hustler in that dealership and you're ground level and you're trying to make something out of yourself. What do you say to that person?
Well, I love this because this was me before I met you in terms of like working with you, is that I was just the hustler. I was, and I think this is where, and I can't give you my inspiration for why I was a hustler before I found good leadership. It was the reality. You just got to have a little bit of dog in you.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where it is, you have to go
get some debt, guys. All
Yeah,
you guys that want to be
you got to
hustlers,
find
go buy
it.
some cars and some houses and have
Go
a
buy
good
some
reason
shit.
to
I'll
work.
tell you what, you want to learn what that mentality is, go work for a franchise car dealership for 2 months. You will buy things that you never thought you would, and then you will figure out what payments are. But I was reminded of something, and I want to say this quickly. I did an interview with a guy today that came into the dealership, had a decent resume. None of it was unit-based sales, just had a good resume of responsibility and work ethic, and he just checked a lot of boxes. And I brought him in, and I was almost awestruck by what he said at the end of the interview when he said, because I made light, well, I didn't make light, I brought light to the elephant in the room that's, hey, I see on your resume you've never been on a commission pay plan. All I see on your resume is hourly pay. And I said, I'm going to tell you, the biggest challenge that somebody will face when they come from the mentality of hourly is a commission-based pay plan. And he looked at me straight in my face, and this big grin came on his face, and he says, yeah, I was thinking about that, and to be honest with you, it kind of gives me butterflies in my stomach. And it reminded me of why I left a 6-figure job with Lowe's on salary, right, at 24 years old or 23 years old, left the 6-year tenure that I had with that company, guaranteed paychecks, benefits, all of these things. And I decided one day I was miserable and I had to figure something out. And the only thing I knew that I was passionate in life about outside of my wife was cars. And I was like, hell, if I could make half of this income and love what I did, I'd go do it. I'll go do it. And so I made a decision to jump off a cliff that day. And within 2 weeks of that day where I knew that thought and I just was willing to give it all up, I was selling cars. And I was only selling cars for 11 days of that month that I got hired on. And in that 11 days, I made more that month than what I was going to make on my paycheck from Lowe's. And from that point on, I realized that I was no longer an hourly mentality person. And the reason that I think that this is so important is it's easy to forget that we all do what we do. It's because we know that a salary capture income, it doesn't guarantee it. And that's a different way to think about life. If I have a salary, some people say, well, that's guaranteed. And other people say, that's a ridiculous cap. Because I think that I'm worth more than that salary this month, and I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to make more than that salary this month.
Yep.
Other people say, well, at least if it's a shit month, I'm still going to get my paycheck.
I'm still going to get my...
You know what's sick? And
Does that not get you guys a little bit fired up?
I think it's great,
bro.
I think we just passed our hour cap, and we should keep going.
I'm gonna.
This is good.
We're
I'm
at
gonna-
an hour 17 seconds. That was pretty good.
I'm
We
going to
passed it by
wrap this
17
up with
seconds.
this for those people that he's talking to, and I love this because I've lived it. We've actually all lived it. Is when you get to that point, you're not just going to jump off of one cliff, and you know this from my experience. You're going to jump off that cliff, and you're going to land on another ledge, and then guess what?
You got to jump again.
You're going to find another ledge,
Yep.
and you're going to jump off that motherfucker and
Yep.
say, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level. And the funny thing about this whole analogy is that you feel like you're falling, because you really do when you take that leap.
100%.
You feel like you're falling. But when you land on that next ledge, you feel like you're higher up. And so I love that you've brought this up, because I think it's so important of going from a wage to a commission. I think it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've never worked an hourly job in my entire life. I'm 29 years old. Never.
Damn, you old.
Youngin.
Old as so my first ledge was like, I'm gonna drop out of school. I'm gonna do this shit. Okay. And then I figured out, all right, there's another level to this, and I'm gonna jump. And then I was like, oh, I just made 200, but I don't like where this is going. I don't like I don't like the leadership. So I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to go jump off of another fucking cliff. And I think that people have to understand that it's not, because some people think that if you jump off the first cliff, that's it. Oh, great. I've jumped off the cliff. But you know this better than anybody, and you know this, and I know this. It's like, you're just waiting to hit the next cliff, because it's coming. And eventually, you're going to have to make that decision again.
Guys,
so it's like a never.
We're about to have church here. Do you know what the statistic is? And this is real. You can look it up. Do you know what the statistic is of people that go cliff diving that only do it one time?
0%.
It's zero.
Really?
People that make the decision that they're going to, well, I say
Apparently,
it's zero.
I'm a cliff diver.
Yeah.
They say
gonna
it's
do
zero.
it again
I'm
at
sure
some point.
I'm sure that there's that one guy that didn't make it. But my point is,
Well, they're not counting the 0% because they died.
they're no longer a percentage, but the percentage is zero, and that shows who we are as people. Once we make the decision that we want to experience something that's something we've never experienced and it's exhilarating, we do it again.
Can never get enough,
100%,
man.
yep.
But guess what? That cliff isn't the same height that the cliff that we first jumped off of, because that was our baby cliff.
Yep.
Right?
Go land on a big
It's
cliff,
higher.
dog.
We figure out how to get on a helicopter and get to a higher peak.
Yep.
Right? And then we jump off that peak.
Motherfucker, fuck this.
And then I'm out. And these, I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but if you haven't gone down a dark hole, man, look up cliff diving, and you will see some of the coolest video footage you've ever seen in your life. And you will think these guys are maniacs. But I'm going to tell you something. The best owners, the best leaders, the best salespeople are maniacs, because they are willing to jump off a cliff that other people look and say, "You're jumping off of that cliff right now."
An idiot.
And I'm going to tell you something.
I've always said there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wear
there's
a
something
helmet.
wrong with you guys. So what's wrong
Yeah.
with you? You're
If you're gonna-
maniacs.
Moral of the story: if you're going to get in sales, wear a helmet. But if you conquer that, and I don't care if that's with I've never really been good at a takeaway close, right? That's a cliff you need to jump off of, because there's a very large group of buyers that only respond to a takeaway close. If you're scared of, I don't know how much cash I want to have in pre-owned inventory.
Oh, you're
Why'd you point at me?
Well, I'm
said,
I'm
"Bobby, you
recognizing, right? My name's
yeah.
my name's not on that account.
Yeah, you're
so
right.
so if I'm just saying, this is a real conversation.
Yeah.
You need to put a real good analysis on your risk and realize that if there's a potential of making it, is it worth it or not? Because whenever you jump off a cliff, there's a potential you don't make it.
Yeah.
There is.
So is the risk worth the reward?
Or
And
is the journey worth the reward?
is the experience worth the reward?
Right.
You know what we're talking about here, fellas? Something beautiful. It's called faith.
You'd be
You're
right.
not wrong.
You'd be
Yeah,
right.
you're not wrong.
You'd be right.
When we decided to do this, not only was it shit, but it was shit for 4 long years.
Yep.
4 long years. 4 long. Part of that's by choice. Part of that's just because we
jumped.
we jumped, and
Yeah.
the fall was long and hard, and
Yep.
luckily we landed. And look, ain't no doubt about it. Some of it's luck, and you need a little.
But do
bit
you
of
know
luck.
what luck is? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That's what luck is.
Well, if you guys weren't listening to anything else, I hope you're listening to
That's
that.
what you ought to listen to.
That's luck.
And this is why you listen
Anybody
to
that gets lucky, you know what they did?
Moving Metal Show.
They showed up. They jumped off the cliff.
They jumped off the cliff. Fellas, give me my theme music.
All right.
All right.
Luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Hey, man,
Take
if
away.
you ever needed a push, I'm giving it to you now. Jump off the cliff.
And if you need a job and you're a salesperson,
Give us a call.
Hope you have a helmet.
just kidding.
Lastly, thank you to my co-hosts, Christian Eagle, Brandon Prokupek. Appreciate you guys being here. If you enjoyed the show today, give us a like, share it, give us a subscribe. I don't even know what you do with these things, but do it, whatever you do. And last and not least, jump off the cliff, man. There's more. What do we say? There's more for you out there, baby.
more for
boy.
you out there.
Go get it.
Get
Thank
it.
you very much.